They thought I was after his money, whispered behind my back, called me a gold digger, a lucky girl who managed to cling to someone decent. But what they didn't know was that they were the real predators in this game. And me? I was just waiting for the right moment to flip the board. So tell me, who's really using who? Follow us for this intense and dramatic story. I used to think I had good taste until I stepped into Adam's penthouse. Everything in that place had a purpose. The massive painting in the center of the room wasn't there because he liked the colors, but because it was a limited edition piece bought at an auction sponsored by his mother. The cream leather couch, no one ever sat on it. The pendant lights over the kitchen, imported from Italy. But Adam ate out almost every night. I stood in that kitchen and asked myself, am I living in my boyfriend's home or in a showroom? But I come from a different place, a place where people pick chairs because their backs hurt and curtains because the evening sun hits their eyes at dinner. I'm a furniture sales assistant at a small family-owned shop in downtown Austin. The job's not flashy, but I love how each grain of wood tells a story, how every stitch shows someone's craftsmanship. I know customers by name, remember their preferences, know who's buying a chair for their mom and who's picking a couch for their newly adopted three-legged dog. Adam was different. He didn't come into the shop to buy anything. He came to check out the space for a friend looking to invest. But somehow he noticed me, not the furniture. He said I had a way of looking at people that made it hard to lie. I laughed, thinking he was just flirting. But then he came back the next day, and the one after that. We started dating. He took me to parties where I was the only one not wearing clothes with a logo. He'd introduce me as Isla, she's got a great eye for design, like he was trying to cover up the fact that I was a sales assistant. I didn't react. I got it. His world was one I'd never stepped into. I was still learning not to sigh when I looked at the price of a meal. Just 3 months in, he asked me to move in with him. I hesitated. He said, "You'll save a ton instead of paying for that tiny place." It sounded like a calculation. But maybe it was his way of caring, the way people with money often do, offering, not asking. I nodded, and moved into the 36th floor apartment, where the wood floors were wiped down with bamboo cloths, and every table linen had its own cleaning staff. By the first week, his mom called me, not to say hello, but to ask if I had any experience planning events, because she might need a little help with Uncle Robert's birthday. He's from the paternal side. I had just laid down after a long day on my feet at the store. She spoke like I was her event coordinator, not her son's girlfriend. At our official first meeting, she handed me a small bag. I opened it, a box of blush. "This shade suits your skin better," she said. "Don't take it the wrong way, every girl entering our circle needs a little adjusting." She smiled politely. I didn't respond, and I never used that blush. Adam's sister, Chloe, was more subtle. She sent me a link to an article titled, "How to Understand Upper-Class Culture Without Feeling Out of Place," and called it thoughtful. I said nothing, but each of those small jabs felt like quiet stitches threading through a fabric already worn thin. I started hearing things like, "You're really lucky," or "Not everyone gets a shot like this." From strangers. His friends. A few family business connections. They thought I was in it for the money. They didn't say it outright. But eyes don't need translating. I told Adam. He laughed. "People talk. As long as you and I know why we're together, that's what matters." I wanted to believe that. I really did. Then one Tuesday night, after he shut his laptop without even looking at me, he said, "What do you think about getting married? Would stop people from gossiping. No flowers, no getting down on one knee, no I love you. Just a suggestion, like switching phone plans because there's a limited time deal." I gave a small smile and nodded, because I wanted to believe he was doing it to keep me. Because I thought, once we were married, people would shut up, and I'd finally get the chance to prove I didn't need to marry anyone for money. That I was the woman he loved, not the one using him like they whispered. We started planning the wedding. His mom inserted herself into everything. The guest list, the venue, even the wedding rings. I told her I wanted something simple. She laughed and said, "Oh dear, there's no such thing as simple when you marry into this family." That night, I stood in the kitchen, quietly washing a pile of glasses we hadn't gotten around to loading in the dishwasher. Adam was in the bedroom on the phone with someone, talking real estate in Arizona. I heard the landline ring from the living room. I wasn't planning to answer, but it picked up on speaker automatically, and her voice came through. "I told you, she's fine. Knows her place, doesn't ask for much. But that type, I've seen it over and over. If you're going to be a gold digger, at least have a strategy. This one just dives in. Well, less trouble, I suppose." The call ended on its own. I stood still. Soap suds still clung to my hands, but my heart felt like stone. Not because she called me a gold digger, but because everyone seemed to believe it. And Adam, the one person who should have said otherwise, never did. I wiped my hands, turned off the kitchen lights. No one saw me cry that night. And no one knew. In that silence, I started making a plan, not for revenge, but to show them exactly who really knows how to use people. I didn't cry that night, but I couldn't sleep either. Something inside me had snapped, and when something breaks, it doesn't always make a sound. I stayed up until almost morning, staring at the ceiling with unblinking eyes. Every word his mother said replayed like a needle stuck on a record. I didn't feel sorry for myself. I was calculating, because what they didn't know, I'm not the kind of girl who came in empty-handed. My family isn't rich in the flashy way. But we're rich. My dad built a medical supply distribution company from the ground up in Eugene, Oregon. My mom passed away early, and I grew up in the office, between shelves, reports, and shareholder meetings. I wasn't taught how to dress to impress. I was taught how to read a cash flow statement. Last week, my family's company finalized a buyout deal with a European conglomerate. If everything goes through, I'll inherit 60% of the shares my father left me, worth around $60 million. I know that because I was the one who signed the final draft. I never told Adam. Not because I was hiding it, but because I wanted to know, if I were just Isla, the girl with nothing but a sales job, would he still love me? Now I have my answer, and I know exactly what to do next. I stayed quiet, but every sense in me switched on like I was in the middle of a chess match. Every word, every gesture from his family had a move behind it. I couldn't afford to keep playing like someone who didn't know the rules. Chloe sent me a list of recommended venues for the wedding. 12 restaurants. I checked every one of them. 7 were part of a chain their grandmother invested in. The other 3? Owned by close friends of Adam's mom. Another day, his mother casually mentioned a new lakeside development going on sale and said, if Adam had a bit more backing from his future in-laws, getting the loan would be easier. I smiled. Said nothing, but I remembered every word. I started documenting everything. Screenshotted messages, recorded conversations, no permission needed. I stored it all on a separate hard drive, password protected. Only I knew the code. Then I went to the one man I could still trust, Arthur, our family's longtime attorney back in Oregon. He's been advising both the company and my father personally for over 20 years. I met him at a small downtown office, not a cafe. No one came with me. I walked in, sat down, and placed the nearly finalized merger contract in front of him. I want a clause that protects my personal assets, completely separate from any future marriage, I said. Arthur didn't ask many questions. He just nodded and started writing. I added one more condition. If I don't re-sign within 6 months of getting married, the assets automatically transfer into a trust in my name, with no access granted to anyone else. I didn't put that in place because I'm afraid of losing money. I did it because I know people don't value what they think comes for free, and I've gotten used to being seen as a polished upgrade, not a person. The closer we got to the wedding, the clearer their real goal became. They didn't want a daughter-in-law. They wanted a bridge, a stepping stone, a living investment package. Once I caught his mother snooping through my home office, thinking I wasn't around. I didn't confront her. I just started locking the drawer where I kept my files. One evening, Adam came home with a bottle of wine and said his family wanted to host a little dinner to introduce me to their investment circle. I'm not a new product launch, I said. He gave an awkward laugh. I just mean, they want to understand more before we officially commit. I nodded, but something inside me quietly turned to smoke. I used to think they didn't like me because I wasn't good enough. Now I know, they didn't hate me. They wanted me. wanted what I had, what they assumed I didn't. Every glance thrown my way carried one unspoken question. What does she bring to this family? They thought I came to ask for something. But I didn't. I came with empty hands. Not because I was poor, but because I wanted to see who was real. And now I've seen it. In the end, I looked back at everything. The restaurant list, the investment suggestions, the probing stares, and the way his mother touched my hand like she was checking the quality of a material before buying. I'm not the gold digger. I'm the gold. And they're the ones digging so carefully, they actually believe they're being kind. From the moment I realized my true role in this story, I started performing. Not to be fake, but to observe without drawing suspicion. I kept smiling. Still gave feedback on the wedding menu to Adam's mother. Still complimented the venue she chose as so elegant. I still went to dress fittings, thanked relatives for their congratulations, held Adam's hand during engagement photos. But in my mind, every detail was being placed exactly where it belonged. They thought I was being passive. In reality, I was collecting. One Saturday afternoon, I received a gift box from Chloe, Adam's sister. She said it was from their mother. A traditional wedding gown passed down through 3 generations of exceptional women in the family. I opened the box. The fabric was thick, high collar, puffy Victorian sleeves, ivory white. Not ugly, but definitely not for me. Inside the box was a small handwritten note. Not every girl deserves to wear this dress, but you've put our minds at ease. I read it over and over. My name wasn't in it. There wasn't a shred of real emotion, just a quiet acknowledgement that somehow I had passed their unspoken test. I folded the dress, placed it back in the box, and slid it under the bed. Later, Chloe called me, chatting like we were old friends, like we were real sisters. But halfway through the conversation, her tone shifted. "Could you help me with something small?" she asked. I waited. "There's this investment group looking for a fintech project," Chloe said. "I figured if Adam introduced them to my team, we might land funding. Could you talk to him for me?" I pressed my lips together. Didn't answer right away. Chloe didn't ask if I was comfortable with it. She just assumed I'd say yes. "You get it," she laughed. "You're always so agreeable." I hung up, then opened my phone and took a screenshot of the call. Added a note. "Chloe?" Suggested using Adam to bait investors. I already had a dedicated folder named Before the Wedding. Inside were dozens of screenshots, audio recordings, forwarded messages, even a photo of a gift accidentally sent by one of Adam's mom's acquaintances, a half-used set of luxury cosmetics. I saved everything like an auditor files records, not to threaten, but so no one could say, "I don't remember that." I remembered it all. I remembered the dinner where Adam's mother turned to me after a joke and whispered, "This one doesn't make trouble. Maybe that's her biggest upside." I remembered the look from some distant relative as she said, "Adam really knows how to pick a girl, someone who doesn't compete." I remembered the way Adam smiled when someone called me quiet. He didn't disagree. He didn't even look at me. That's when I realized I wasn't the main character in the wedding portrait they were painting. I was the background. Something muted so the rest could shine. I was the backup bride. No one said it out loud, but every word pointed to it. They didn't truly accept me. They accepted the idea of me. Someone easy to manage. No messy past. No demands for change. Someone who didn't require space to be made, because she didn't take up much to begin with. I didn't stand out. And that's exactly why I fit. I used to think that was a sign of maturity. Now I see it for what it is. Invisibility. No one asked what I wanted for the wedding. His mother wrote the guest list, picked the menu, booked the band, chose the cake. I was just sent a link and told, "Click the one you like, but don't worry, it's all been ordered." I nodded. I said thank you. I kept smiling, because they thought I had accepted my place. But I wasn't surrendering. I was planning. Adam's family's big gathering was coming up. A lavish rooftop event to officially announce the engagement. They rented out a high-end venue downtown, invited media, friends, business partners. A full-scale performance, not out of love, but to prove their new daughter-in-law was worthy of the spotlight. I didn't object. I agreed to the dress fitting his mother arranged. Let her choose the flowers. Listened as Chloe described the bridesmaid gowns in cool tones, because you look better in muted colors than anything too bright. I noted every word, every detail. I didn't need them to change. I just needed them to show who they really were. And they were doing a perfect job. I knew exactly where I stood. I was at the center of a chessboard, and I had no intention of being a pawn. The night before the party, I took a longer shower than usual, sat in front of the mirror, towel drying my hair, and looked at myself for a long time. Not to check my makeup, not to reassure myself. I just looked. And then I smiled. Not because I looked beautiful, but because I knew they weren't the only ones with a plan for that party. The sky that day was so clear, it felt cold. I stepped out of the car in a long-sleeved coat, adjusted my hair before walking into the glass lobby. The doors opened by sensor, no touch required, but two uniformed greeters still stood at attention, privately hired staff, of course. Adam's mother had picked the venue with precision. The top floor of a 5-star hotel, full panoramic city view, white velvet carpets, scented candles lining the hallways, and a string quartet playing classical film score covers. I knew every detail because I'd been emailed the full event plan 3 days in a row, even though no one asked my opinion on any of it. The party had a title: The Official Introduction of Adam's Fiancée and the Union of Two Prominent Families. It sounded more like a contract signing than an engagement announcement. But I was ready. I wore a deep blue silk dress, a color that wasn't anywhere on the palette his mother had chosen. Adam looked surprised when he saw me, but said nothing. He smiled, placed a hand on my back, and guided me into the crowd like everything was going according to plan. I moved through clusters of guests, business partners of the family, friends of his parents, the kind of people who had never once looked me in the eye. I smiled at each of them, firm handshakes, no bowing. His mother wore pale yellow, high-necked hair in a tight bun, like a society woman prepping for a magazine cover. She didn't approach me, just watched from across the room, eyes scanning like a quality control inspector before a product launch. Chloe avoided my gaze completely. She stood by the cocktail table, gripping her glass, eyes flicking between me and the guests like she was waiting for something to go wrong. Adam handed me a glass of champagne and leaned in. After my dad's speech, you'll go up. Just say a few thank yous. I nodded, but I had no intention of thanking anyone. The air around me was tight, like the surface of a lake about to crack. People chatted and laughed, but every glance, every shuffle of feet gravitated toward the small stage where a microphone was being set up. The lights dimmed. Adam's father stepped onto the stage, took the mic. His voice rang out clear, every word delivered like it had been rehearsed. Today is a significant day for our family. We're not only welcoming someone new into our home, but reaffirming our belief in solid, fitting, and valuable relationships. He paused, looked at me, not with warmth, but with assessment. Please welcome Isla, who will be joining our son on this new journey. Scattered applause. The camera swung in my direction. Adam took my hand, gently led me to the stage. I took the mic, and for the first few seconds, I didn't look at anyone. I just listened to my heartbeat, loud, steady, and certain. I know, this is a big event, I began, my voice steady, unwavering. Everyone here matters. Everyone here has a reason to be part of this, and I'm thankful for that. I paused, letting my gaze drift toward the far table, where his mother sat upright, lips pressed tight. But if I'm standing up here just to say a few thank yous, then I'm afraid I've been underestimated. The room began to quiet. I've been seen as someone who came to Adam out of circumstance, out of convenience, out of a desire for an easier life. Every glance, every casual comment over the past few months made it crystal clear where some people think I stand. No one spoke. I kept going. So I think it's time to clarify something, I said. My family, back in Oregon, just finalized a merger with an international healthcare conglomerate. The share of assets I'm set to inherit, if all goes through next quarter, is estimated at around $60 million. Somewhere behind me, a glass dropped to the floor. I didn't turn around. And no, I'm not saying this to show off. I'm saying it so that someone in this room, the one who once called me a gold digger without a strategy, understands this. I didn't come here to take. I came to see who was real. I turned to Adam. He stood frozen, eyes wide, like he was trying to reorganize his entire life after a slap that never touched his face. I turned to his mother. The wedding dress you sent me, it doesn't fit. Not because of the style, but because it was made for someone who stays quiet. And I don't. No one moved. Even the string quartet had forgotten they were supposed to keep playing. I slipped the engagement ring off my finger, held it up. I used to think that if I was patient enough, soft enough, people would eventually see me as part of this family. But I was wrong. I placed the ring on top of the microphone. The soft tap of metal echoed in the silence. This isn't a retreat, this is a decision. Then I turned and walked off the stage. No one stopped me. No one reached out. Chloe, the one who once tried to use me to bait investors, was crying. Whether from shame or something deeper, I couldn't tell. Adam's mother didn't say a word. She stood up, turned her face away, and walked from the table as I passed. Adam still said nothing. I didn't look back. There were no doormen at the exit of the ballroom. I pushed the doors open myself. The wind outside was colder than I expected, but I didn't feel cold. For the first time, I walked out of a room full of people and didn't need anyone to open the door for me. I left the city on Monday morning in a car I didn't announce. No goodbyes, no Louis Vuitton luggage, no hands waving through tinted glass. Just me and 2 bags. Enough to start over, with nothing extra from the past. Oregon greeted me with soft, cold air and roads I knew by heart. I went straight to the company office, met with the executive board, and signed the official paperwork to take on interim leadership. Interim. Because I wanted to be sure I wasn't wrong in coming back. The old sign still had my father's name on it. I touched it lightly. No tears. Just the quiet weight of closing one chapter and opening another, carried forward by the same blood that brought me here. Work filled my calendar. I didn't check social media, didn't ask about what people were saying. No more Adam, no more thoughts of the 36th floor apartment or his mother's watching eyes. I deleted his number from my phone without hesitation. Not out of anger, but because there was no reason to keep something that no longer belonged to me. 3 weeks later, I ran into Chloe. I was having lunch with an old business contact and she was seated 2 tables away. She walked over, hesitant, like she was asking permission to step into forbidden territory. "I'm not here to stir things up," she said quietly. I'm sorry." I didn't say anything. "I know I was a coward," she went on, voice cracking. I couldn't handle our mom. I thought if I played along, she'd leave me alone." I set my knife down and looked her in the eyes. "You're not a coward. You just chose a different road." She started crying. I didn't reach out to wipe her tears, but I didn't hate her. I didn't hate anyone from that old story anymore. "Do you forgive me?" she asked. "I didn't bring petty grudges into the mountains," I said. "What I carry is quiet." I moved into a small wooden house near the forest, over 30 minutes from the nearest city. No security cameras, no housekeeper, no nosy neighbors. Just the sound of wind through the pines, the smell of slow-burning wood each evening, and the quiet tap of my keyboard as I worked remotely. I planted flowers, I'd baked. I redrew the floor plan of the house. Not to sell it, but to understand how I lived in it. Sometimes I woke in the middle of the night, not from nightmares, but from a silence so deep it startled me. A silence without waiting, without anyone expecting me to prove anything. I wrote a letter, addressed to no one. I placed it in the drawer beside my bed. They used to call me a gold digger, said I was lucky to catch someone decent, but I never needed anyone to catch me. I'm the one who chose, not because of them, because of me. I folded the letter, didn't sign it, because I knew who wrote it, and I knew who had already read it. No one knows where I am, no one needs to. But if anyone's been following this story from the beginning, there's one thing I want to say. I didn't leave to escape. I left so I wouldn't have to endure anymore. And if anyone ever doubted me, they can stop now. Because I no longer live to prove anything to anyone. I live for peace. And I'm doing exactly that. Sometimes the deepest pain isn't being hated. It's being misunderstood. But the truth always finds its way out. Not through shouting, but through action. When you know who you are, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Have you ever been underestimated, mislabeled, or judged by how you look? If you were in Isla's place, would you stay quiet or speak up? Share your story in the comments below. We read and listen to everyone. And don't forget to support us by hitting that subscribe button. We truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being here with us.